Here are the ebooks that I bought and the ebooks that I read in the month of November. First, the books I bought in November. 3 days after hexing her ex's underwear drawer, Clove Morrell returns to the magical town of Willowmere with nothing but her grimoire, her sassy feline familiar, and a dream she's finally ready to chase, opening her very own enchanted coffee shop. The only problem? The charming old cafe she buys comes with a surprise tenant in the upstairs apartment, Thorn, a handsome and mysterious shadowmancer with scars, secrets, and no intention of moving out. But when her ex suddenly shows up in town, Clove blurts out a desperate lie. She's already moved on, with Thorn. Much to her shock, the reclusive mage agrees to play along, on one condition: he gets to stay in the apartment rent-free. Thorn goes above and beyond, working in her shop, taking her on a date to the pumpkin patch, and helping her develop new drinks for the upcoming Halloween masquerade ball. But as sparks fly between them over pumpkin spice lattes and shadow-drenched secrets, Clove begins to wonder if their fake romance might just be becoming all too real. Dragons and Dumplings by Vanna Woods. Firedrake May Flameborn is perfectly content waitressing at her family's fiery little diner in the magical town of Willowmere. Well, mostly. Sure, she wishes her traditional parents would trust her more with responsibility, especially when it comes to experimenting with her own recipes. For now, she sneaks in her culinary creations after hours and dreams of proving herself. Enter Yuri Glacian, a frost dragon scholar with a chilly stare, a closet full of button-ups, and the audacity to order dragonfire dumplings without the spice. He's the worst kind of regular, picky, aloof, and distractingly handsome, and he keeps showing up like clockwork. But when Yuri unexpectedly helps May out of a tight spot, she offers him a deal. She'll help him dig up ancient lore for his research if he'll help her craft a new signature dish impressive enough to win her parents' approval in time for the town's biggest event of the year, the Harvest Feast. As sparks fly and frost thaws, May finds herself falling for the one dragon who shouldn't tempt her heart and starts to wonder if her so-called enemy might just be the one dragon who truly sees her. But old grudges between fire and ice run deep, and if their growing bond comes to light, it could burn everything to ashes. Brigands Breadknives by Travis Baldree. Fern has weathered the stillness and storms of a bookseller's life for decades, but now in the face of crippling ennui, transplants herself to the city of Thune to hang out her shingle beside a long-absent friend's coffee shop. What could be a better pairing? Surely a charming renovation montage will cure what ails her. If only things were so simple. It turns out that fixing your life isn't a one-time prospect, nor as easy as a change of scenery and a lick of paint. A drunken and desperate knight sees the ratkin waking far from home in the company of a legendary warrior, an imprisoned chaos goblin with a fondness for silverware, and an absolutely thumping hangover. As together they fend off a rogues gallery of ne'er-do-wells trying to claim the bounty the goblin represents, Fern may finally reconnect with the person she actually is when nothing seems inevitable. Judges, Volume 1 by Michael Carroll, George Mann, and Charles J. Eskew. Volume 1 is a gritty, grounded prequel anthology set decades before the iconic world of Judge Dredd. Instead of the near-future authoritarian justice system readers may know, this collection explores the fragile years of traditional policing in America and the early rise of the Judge Program, a radical solution designed to bring order to a country collapsing under corruption, violence, and political decay. Each story, written by George Mann, Michael Carroll, and Charles J. Eskew, follows different characters grappling with the moral weight of a justice system in transition. Some officers see the Judge Initiative as salvation, others view it as the end of democracy. The book blends political intrigue, police procedural tension, cyberpunk atmosphere, and social commentary, showing how fear, inequality, and desperation slowly make extreme justice not just acceptable but inevitable. Rather than presenting judges as flawless heroes, the anthology forces readers to consider how ordinary people, institutions, and crises create authoritarian systems not overnight, but one justified step at a time. These are the books I read in the month of November. Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Q. Sutanto. This cozy mystery follows Vera Wong, an older widow who runs a nearly empty tea shop in San Francisco. Her life is predictable until she discovers a dead body on her shop floor. Instead of stepping aside, Vera decides the police won't solve the case properly, so she takes matters into her own hands. She begins investigating with the same confidence she uses to critique her son's life choices, whether anyone asked or not. As she interacts with the people connected to the case, she unintentionally builds a little community around her, offering unsolicited advice, home-cooked meals, and sharp observations. What begins as a murder mystery also becomes a heartwarming story about purpose, connection, and how unexpected friendships can grow from unusual circumstances. I've been looking for a great detective novel, and most haven't hit the mark, except the Lady Sherlock series, so I was surprised by how much I loved this one. Vera Wong is exactly the kind of detective character I enjoy, quirky, memorable, and full of personality like Columbo or Monk. The suspects also felt real and fully developed, which made the mystery even better. I gave it 5 stars and will definitely be reading the sequel. Vector Prime, Star Wars The New Jedi Order Book 1 by R.A. Salvatore. Set years after the original Star Wars trilogy, this novel marks the beginning of a major turning point in the galaxy. A new and powerful enemy arrives from outside known space, bringing biotechnology, strange tactics, and a deep hatred of the Jedi. Luke, Leia, Han, and the next generation of heroes find themselves unprepared for this new threat, and the usual strategies the galaxy relies on don't seem to work. Political divisions slow response efforts, and the Jedi are left questioning their role in this changing world. I haven't been the biggest Star Wars fan for a while. The universe got so layered and complicated that I kind of lost interest. So I went into this book with low expectations, assuming it would be just as messy. But I was pleasantly surprised. It's set between the original trilogy and the Phantom Menace trilogy and builds from there, making it feel fresh and easy to follow. Instead of relying on lore, it focuses on strong characters and solid sci-fi storytelling. I enjoyed it enough to give it 4 stars, and I can actually see myself continuing the series. First Blood by David Morrell. First Blood is a tense action thriller about a young Vietnam veteran named Rambo who's struggling to adjust to civilian life. When he wanders into a small American town, a local sheriff sees him in trouble and pushes him out of town. Rambo resists, and what begins as a simple confrontation quickly spirals into a violent and relentless manhunt. The story switches between Rambo and the sheriff, showing how pride, trauma, and misunderstanding escalate the situation far beyond what either intended. First Blood is a surprisingly simple story, just a man on the run from the police. But what makes it great is how deeply the book explores the 2 main characters, the hunter and the hunted. There aren't extra twists or complicated subplots, just intense action and emotional weight. I went in expecting an average read, especially since I've seen the movie, but the writing gave the story so much more depth than I expected. What I thought would be a 3-star book easily turned into a 5-star read. If you enjoy classic fugitive stories with strong character focus, I highly recommend it. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This novel follows Ren, a determined orphan from a poor region who earns a place at an elite military academy despite the odds. Once there, she faces discrimination and harsh training, but also discovers she may possess a rare and dangerous magical connection tied to ancient mythology. The tone begins as an academic coming-of-age story, but shifts as war spreads across the land. Ren must decide how to use her abilities and what kind of person she is willing to become in the face of conflict. I almost feel bad for the Poppy War because it had some tough competition for me this year. I read Mistborn and Shadow and Bone first, and Mistborn was a 5-star read, and I really enjoyed Shadow and Bone and gave it 4 stars. Since all 3 feature a young female protagonist rising up against a harsh authoritarian world, I naturally compared them. And out of the 3, this was my least favorite. It was good, but the ending felt a little predictable and a little melodramatic, so while I don't regret reading it, I don't see myself continuing with the series. I'd give it 3 stars. He Who Hesitates by Ed McBain. Roger Broom is in the city to sell wooden wares he and his brother handcrafted in their shop upstate, and he does so with stunning success. To celebrate, he goes out to enjoy the fruits of his labor and winds up in a bar, where he meets Molly. They have a few drinks and then head back to his room. The next morning, Roger is standing outside of the 87th precinct. While Roger wants to report what he knows to the detectives, he struggles to reach out to them when a Spanish beauty named Amelia makes him forget everything else in his life. And with each missed opportunity, Roger delays justice from being served. I've read several great books this month, and this one may be the best. The premise is original, and the way the author explores the characters and their decisions because of that premise is very well done. I find it hard to explain the setup without spoiling it, but trust me, it grabs you fast. The writing feels simple, but it's smart and believable. The characters act like real people, not just story pieces, and even though it's an older book, it still feels fresh. What I love most is that it isn't formulaic. There's no traditional detective, but you're still trying to figure out what's going on the entire way. I never knew what would happen until the very end. If you enjoy mystery or detective fiction, this is a must-read. 5 stars, no hesitation, and I'll definitely be reading more from this author. So to sum up everything I bought and I read in November, the books I bought were Magic and Mochas by Vanna Woods, Dragons and Dumplings by Vanna Woods, Brigands and Breadknives by Travis Baldree, Judges Volume 1 by Michael Carroll, George Mann, and Charles J. Eskew. And what I read this month, Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jesse Q. Sutanto. I gave that 5 stars. Vector Prime Star Wars, The New Jedi Order Book 1 by R.A. Salvatore. I gave that 4 stars. First Blood by David Morrell. I gave that 5 stars. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I gave that 3 stars. He Who Hesitates by Ed McBain. I gave that 5 stars. So that's what I bought. That's what I read in the month of November. This is Ofori, the digital reader, and keep reading.